She walked into the bank with confidence. After all, she wasn't just a customer. She was the CEO who built it from the ground up. But instead of respect, she was met with stares, whispers, and a humiliation so deep it shook the very walls of her institution. In that moment, her success didn't protect her. Her skin color defined her. What happened inside those glass doors wasn't just an insult to her. It was a reflection of something much larger, and the way she responded would change everything. Her name was Maya Thompson. To most of the world, she was the image of success, an Ivy League graduate, a brilliant strategist, and the driving force behind one of the fastest-growing financial institutions in the country. She had spent years fighting through boardrooms where she was the only black woman at the table, proving herself over and over again until no one could deny her brilliance.
On the outside, Maya's life seemed untouchable. She had the corner office, the respect of investors, and a story that inspired countless young women who looked like her. Yet beneath the polished success was a constant, silent battle, a battle she had learned to live with. The double takes, the subtle dismissals, the unspoken question of whether she belonged.
For Maya, resilience wasn't a choice, it was survival. And though she carried herself with grace, the world around her was quick to remind her that power and prejudice often share the same room. That morning at the bank was supposed to be routine. A meeting, a walk through the lobby, and a moment to greet the very staff who worked under her leadership. But instead, it became the day everything shifted. What should have been an ordinary step into her own institution would reveal the truth she could no longer ignore. When Maya stepped through the glass doors of her own bank, she carried herself the way she always did, poised, polished, prepared. To her, this was home turf. Every chair, every desk, every tile on the marble floor had been part of her vision. But almost instantly, she felt it, the weight of eyes following her. A security guard stiffened. A teller glanced at her, and then at her colleague, whispering behind a hand. She heard the shift in tone, the unease that rippled like a silent alarm through the lobby. Customers lined up at the counters stared too long, their faces puzzled as if asking, "What is she doing here?" Maya kept walking, heels clicking against the floor, but the stares only grew sharper. Then came the moment that would change everything. A junior employee, a man who had started working there just weeks ago, stepped forward, blocking her path. His voice carried across the lobby. "Ma'am, this area is restricted. I'm going to have to ask you to wait outside." The words hung heavy in the air. Her chest tightened. Restricted? This was her institution. Her name was on every document, every decision, every paycheck. But in that instant, none of it mattered. To him, she wasn't the CEO. She was a black woman who didn't belong. She tried to explain, calm and direct, but his eyes narrowed. Others gathered, watching, waiting for a spectacle. A security guard approached, hand resting on his belt as though danger had walked in disguised in heels and a tailored suit. The humiliation deepened. One employee chuckled under his breath. Another shook their head in quiet disbelief, but said nothing. Silence, after all, can wound just as sharply as words. Maya felt the heat rise in her chest, her pulse quickening. She had endured dismissive glances in boardrooms, patronizing comments from investors, and questions about whether she was qualified enough. But never, not once, had she been treated as an intruder in the empire she built. Her mind raced. Should she shout? Should she leave? The cameras in the lobby caught every second, and she knew this moment would not just vanish. This was bigger than embarrassment. This was a battle between the identity she had forged and the prejudice that refused to see her worth. The room grew tense as the security guard stepped closer. "Ma'am, I'll have to escort you outside if you don't comply." For a split second, she felt powerless, stripped of her title, her authority, and her dignity. The irony was suffocating. In a place she had created to empower others, she was being reduced to nothing more than her skin color.
Maya stood frozen, the humiliation searing deeper with every passing second. Yet beneath the anger, something else began to stir, a resolve she hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just an insult to her. It was a mirror reflecting the countless indignities faced by those who looked like her. And as she drew in a breath, one thought echoed louder than the chaos around her. They have no idea what's coming next.
The security guard's hand hovered close to her arm, ready to escort her out like an unwanted guest. The whispers had turned into open stares, the kind that pierced deeper than any words could. To the people watching, Maya wasn't the leader of the institution. They saw only what prejudice allowed them to see. And then it happened. The guard reached out, placing a firm grip on her shoulder. The lobby fell into stunned silence, the sound of her heels against the marble swallowed by the collective gasp of those around her. A CEO, manhandled in her own bank. For Maya, the humiliation was complete. Her body froze, but her mind ignited. Years of battling to be seen, respected, and valued came rushing back in a single wave of fury. The countless times she had been underestimated, the endless explanations she had given just to prove her worth, it all exploded into this one unbearable moment. Her chest tightened as anger burnt through her humiliation. She could feel every heartbeat echoing with rage. How dare they? How dare they erase everything I've built with one dismissive gesture?
But even as the guard tried to usher her away, Maya's eyes locked on the staff, who stood frozen, silent, complicit. That silence hurt most of all. Their choice to do nothing, their willingness to watch history repeat itself inside walls that were supposed to symbolize progress. In that instant, Maya realized this wasn't just about her career, her reputation, or even her pride. This was about every person who had been dismissed, diminished, or erased because of the color of their skin. And as the guard's grip tightened, she made a decision that would not only reclaim her dignity, but also shake the very foundation of the institution she had built.
Maya did not fight the guard's grip with her hands. She fought with her power. Calmly, she demanded the cameras be pulled, the board notified, and every single person in that lobby reminded of who she was. Within hours, the story spread through the institution like wildfire. The CEO humiliated inside her own walls. And when she called an emergency meeting, she didn't walk in as a victim, she walked in as a force of reckoning.
Every eye that once doubted her was now forced to face her truth. She laid out the footage, the silence, the complicity. She reminded them that prejudice doesn't just wound individuals, it poisons entire systems. And then, with a steady voice, she made it clear there would be accountability. Policies would change. Leadership would be questioned, and anyone unwilling to confront the bias within their own hearts would have no place in the company she built.
For Maya, this moment was more than vindication. It was a transformation. What was meant to break her instead became the spark that redefined her institution. But the scars of that day lingered, not just for her, but for everyone who watched. Because this wasn't just Maya's story. This is the story of countless people who walk into spaces they've earned, only to be told they don't belong. It is the silent looks, the whispered doubts, and the humiliations that echo long after the moment passes. And the question lingers for all of us. How many more Mayas will it take before we recognize that success should never be overshadowed by skin color? Her story forces us to ask ourselves, when we see injustice, will we stay silent like the crowd in the lobby? Or will we finally stand up?